Hey, welcome to Mastery episode number 3.
Woo!
Nick, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Good. Welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back.
Good to see you, man. That is a crisp white shirt you're wearing.
Thank you very much.
I love it. So yesterday we talked about introductions, personal introductions, and kind of our origin stories. Today we're talking about your relationship to money as a person.
Yeah.
Will you talk about this a little bit?
Of course. So one of the first things that I do with all of my clients is really start to examine their relationship to money as if it were a person. And oftentimes when we think about money, money is a currency. It's that thing that we use, a piece of paper that gets us things that we need. And so oftentimes it can be very transactional.
Right.
And now there's nothing wrong with that, but when we actually start to distinguish a new type of relationship with money, there's something new that could be possible. So the reason why I have people and clients start to examine their relationship to money as if it were a person is because in the experience of being able to personify money, there's a relationship that actually gets created. So and the reason why that's important is because when you can distinguish a particular relationship to money, then you can start to alter it. Right, so just like friends, you and I, if you were just Adam and I had no relationship to Adam, then you would just be Adam. But if I started to relate to you as a mentor or a partner or a friend, then I could start to be a particular way, take different actions, and interact with you in a particular way. So the first thing that I want all of the listeners to really start to examine, whether you're driving or on a treadmill or feeding your dog or whatever, is to just imagine that if you are over where you are and you're listening to this podcast and you see money over there, what does money look like? And now there's no right or wrong answer, and I'm not necessarily fishing for anything either, but I'm going to ask a few questions just as places to stand. And some of them may apply to you and some of them may not, but they're just places to look. So for example, with money, is money really, really far away from you, or is it close to you? Is it a man or a woman? Is there no gender, perhaps? I've had clients say that it's a blurry face, but they can tell that they are foreign, like they are not from the United States.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, so some of them have no face because there's a hood over it. So really start to look like, what does money look like? And as you start to kind of personify and characterize money, I have one client who said money is like a mob boss smoking cigars, like very, very intimidating, overpowering, and thunderous. I've had other clients say money is like that really sexy chick that is like super hot but out of reach, right? So start to examine what your relationship to money is and start to see what type of experiences and emotions come up as you start to think about it. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a quote-unquote bad relationship to money. However, as I've worked with clients, and what I typically find in people pursuing their mastery is initially, at least inherently, it is a relationship that's not necessarily empowering. So I'm going to stop here, Adam. I'm definitely curious to hear, as I pose these questions, what type of relationship to money. If money was a person, how would you start to describe your relationship to money?
Well, when you first brought this up to me some time ago, and you would ask me the exact question, if money were a person, and what is your relationship to it? I knew that it was a male, and the way I describe it today is probably different than how I would have described it years ago.
Sure.
But today, money is a close friend of mine that visits me often. And so when I think about money as a relationship, it's really about that it's constantly coming back to visit, that I get, which to me means that maybe the affirmations are working, that money comes easily and frequently. I say that to myself all the time. Money comes easily and frequently. And as a result, money is a close friend. So it's a male and it's a good friend of mine. He and I have a close relationship.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. And I think it also speaks to the work that you put in to really, to attain the level of mastery that you have with money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I can imagine that the people who say it's a mob boss or it's this beautiful woman, but she's so far away from me, she's out of reach. I can imagine that those people probably have, because of that negative relationship, have a hard time either keeping it or acquiring it or growing it.
Yep.
And so yeah, I'm just curious what else you found with clients you've worked with.
Yeah, definitely. So it's really, really powerful to start to, one, kind of personify it. What does money actually look like? Is it a male, female? For me, it's a male, and it's a really cool, like, suave male, like the one at like
me.
Like, exactly. Yeah, I just felt awkward saying it, but since you brought it up, exactly. I was like, why does money look like such a stud?
Yeah,
look like
as a bald guy.
But as you start to really paint that picture of what money looks like, then you can start to really, what's important is to then really tap into your experience around money. So is there a particular feeling when money is not there, or in another room, or across the lake, or right next to you? Once we start to examine that, I have examples upon examples saying money, there's an intimidating feeling to it, or money is untrustworthy, can't trust money. For me, it's money is really, it's too cool for me. And so once it, like, cool as in suave and stuff like that. So when I start to then examine that, I then ask the question, now, how does your relationship to money, given that experience, impact the way money as a physical currency show up in your life? So I have an entrepreneur that I work with that says money is something that is really far away. And so I asked him, how does that show up in your business? And so anytime he's trying to speak with investors, he always chokes up because money is far away. It's something that he can't get. And the good news about this is that he now can distinguish that. And he now has at least some access to being able to disrupt it. But before that, it was always just like, wow, I'm in an investment meeting. For some reason, I just can't talk about money, and I can't ask for it, and I can't get it. Now, in examining your relationship to money as if it were a person and the experiences, it can start to impact how you relate to money. Kind of speaking on yours, and I would make some assertions that money is a friend that comes and goes often. Or how did you phrase it?
He comes often. He regularly
often.
Visits me. Yeah.
I would assert that there's like a warm, fuzzy feeling. Like anytime he comes, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you again. Right. And so who you are in the world on a day-to-day basis is someone that is looking forward to seeing money again, versus someone who has a relationship to money that is intimidating. You're kind of avoiding, resisting, staying away from it.
Sure.
So
I have to imagine that some of that, you mentioned it's abstract. It's this abstract idea if money is just paper. And we're in a society now where money is abstract most of the time, right? By the time you're using debit cards and Venmo and all those kinds of things, it's so abstract that I would imagine that the relationship that people have with an even more abstract concept becomes more challenging.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, that's a really powerful point. I never thought about it that way. With money being more abstract than it has in the past with Venmo and all of that, I think that's why it's even that much more important to start to explore your relationship to money, or else it's just going to become a concept and an idea that just really doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So much of this probably has to do with your earliest memory of money. Like we all have imprints, right, from our family. So we're going to talk about this in the next episode. We'll talk about your earliest money memory and how family imprints have impacted you. So I'm excited about that. Come back for that episode and watch that video if you're on YouTube with us. We always talk about leaving our audience with something.
Yep.
So what can we leave our listeners with today on this discussion?
Yeah, so for you listeners and for you watchers, really what I want you to start to uncover is really identifying your relationship to money. And really, once you discover that, just know that it is a work in progress. It may shift over time, like Adam's, as he said, when he was 22 versus where he is now. Your relationship to money will shift, just like your relationship to your parents or your friends or whoever, your partner, whoever the case is. So identify your relationship to money. And then 2, share it with 3 people that are important to you and say, hey, this is what I discovered. And the bonus opportunity is to ask them, hey, if money were a person, what is your relationship to money? Come back ready to share, comment on YouTube, and we will engage with you, and really excited to see what comes up.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and we will see you tomorrow on the Mastery Podcast. Peace.